The Lemon Fruit, a story from Syria. Once upon a time, in the village of Suwaida in Syria, there lived a king named Sulayman. The king's people were once prosperous, but years of war had left many without jobs or food. One morning, King Sulayman invited anyone in his land who suffered from poverty to visit his castle, and he would help them find work. Once the king's invitation spread, hundreds of villagers lined up outside the castle begging for food. In the center of the village, a poor woman named Fahima swept her home's floors with a straw broom. Fahima was a strong mother and a hard worker, but she could not find anyone who would hire her. When she heard of the king's proposal, she decided to try her luck and visit him. Her husband encouraged her and wished her success. However, he reminded her that it was bad manners to visit someone empty-handed, especially a king. She had no money to buy an expensive gift. All she had was a single coin. Her husband advised her to use it to buy anything she found along the way. As she walked towards the king's castle, she found a man selling lemons. She stopped and smelled each round yellow ball and bought the most fragrant single lemon with her coin. When she reached the castle, the guards stopped her. She told them she was coming to see about a job. "We will let you in on one condition. We get half of whatever the king gives you." She replied, "If the king is generous to me, I will be generous to you." And so they let her in. Inside the castle, she saw the king, surrounded by his ministers and family, looking majestic in a velvet suit and ruby-encrusted crown. Fahima was in awe, but she moved forward with confidence and said, "Peace be upon you, O great king. I am Fahima, and I come to your castle seeking justice. You have opened your door to the poor in need of work, and I am seeking the work you promised." The king welcomed her, and Fahima continued, "Since it is a sign of good manners to bring a gift, I have brought you the only thing I can afford to buy, a lemon fruit." The king thanked her and took the lemon. He found it smell so refreshing, like a bowl of spring blooming. What's more, it was remarkable that a poor, needy person should think of bringing a present to a king. So he decided to test if this woman was worthy of employment. He ordered the table to be prepared with a big dish of rice topped by a roasted turkey. He asked Fahima to divide the turkey and distribute the pieces. The woman was nervous and pleaded, "O wise king, please relieve me of this task." "I insist," said the king. Fahima started to divide the bird. She took the turkey's head and placed it in front of the king. Then she took the breast for herself and placed the wings in front of the king's daughters. The thighs she placed in front of the ministers, and the back he gave to the king's wife. The king said nothing and invited his guest and entourage to feast. After everyone had finished eating, the king asked the poor woman, "Fahima, now that we have finished eating and drinking, I want to ask you about the logic behind the division." Fahima answered, "O wise king, the head is for the head. You are our elder and decision maker. The breast is for your people, who love you and gain sustenance from you, just as I do. The wings are for your children, because they make you fly with happiness. The legs are for your ministers, because they help you move through this world. Your wife is your support, your protector, and your courage, so the back is for her." The king was impressed with Fahima's answer and decided to appoint her as his counselor. He ordered his slaves to give her lots of money and gifts. Fahima was so grateful and hurried home to share with her family. At the gate, Fahima gave the guards half of what the king had given her, as she promised. When Fahima's husband met her at the door, he was with their neighbor, Ahmed. He asked them what was the secret behind Fahima's newfound wealth. Fahima's husband replied, "The secret is in the lemon fruit that the king accepted with gratitude. This is what convinced him to appoint my wife as his counselor." Ahmed smiled and went straight to his wife, Salma. Salma was a wealthy woman and listened to her husband's story. One lemon fruit has transformed our poor, destitute neighbor into a very rich woman. All you have to do is take a bag full of lemons to the king, and he may well appoint you as a minister, and you will be even richer." The next day, Selma dressed up in her best robes. She went to the market and bought a huge bag of lemons, and put it on her donkey as they approached the castle. There the guards stopped her. When they learned she was carrying a present for the king and was coming to ask for work, they told her they would only let her in if she gave them half of the king's gift. Selma agreed, but in secret was planning to keep it all for herself. Inside the castle, Selma greeted the king. "Oh, generous king! I am Selma, and I present to you a bounty of lemons." The king accepted the gift, thinking it rather peculiar that the gifts of yesterday and today were so similar. He looked at the woman's clothes and realized they were not those of a poor woman, so he decided to test her. When the table was set, the king ordered Selma to divide the turkey that was on top of the rice. Selma took the head and put it in front of her, and placed the breast in front of the king. Before she could continue, the king stopped her and instantly asked for an explanation. Selma replied, "O wise king, I gave you the biggest portion, the breast, and I gave myself the head, which does not contain anything edible." The king was angry and called on his slaves, "Take her out immediately." Selma begged and pleaded to let her stay, but the king told her, "Do you think I need food or drink, that you give me a bird's breast? What I need in my kingdom are shrewd people who use their heads. You brought me a bag full of lemons. What use do I have for it? It's obvious that you are imitating the one who preceded you, and you did not think of words or actions for yourself." The king ordered his entourage to take Selma away from the castle and back to her home. As for Fahima, she became the king's counselor, and richer than in her wildest dreams. True to her promise, she continued to give half of her wealth to those poorer than her.